Welcome, Jet fans, to the Jets Life podcast. I'm your host, Anthony. And what's going on with this picture today? Sorry about that, guys. Some changes to our streaming platform. But yeah, let's get this thing started. I'm your host, Anthony from the Jets Life podcast. And here we are once again on a Tuesday evening. Riding solo today. Dom is out on vacation, enjoying his time with his family. He won't be making it today. So again, it will be me riding solo on this episode today. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. There's not much to talk about, really. I guess we'll get started right off the bat here and talk about this embarrassment of a game. Jets completely mopped up by the New England Patriots. A game that was over from the opening kickoff. It just never – nothing in this game went right for the Jets, and it was as expected. Patriots are a much higher class at this point in time. Vrabel, obviously, outstanding head coach, got that team turned around. Drake May, one of the favorites for MVP candidate at this point in time. Everything is turned around for the Patriots in a short period of time, and you can't look any further than the head coach at this point in time. Everything draws directly to the job that Mike Vrabel has done, and obviously Drake May and that offensive staff getting him developed in the right direction. He's in year 2, and he's already an MVP finalist. But the Jets sit here, and year after year, we're told, and we're geared towards looking a year or two in the future, looking a year or two out, and it's unfortunate. It's sad. Sorry about that. It's unfortunate, it's sad. This team continues to get themselves. Jeez, man, dying here. I don't know what the hell happened. Got took off fit right before the show started, and here I am choking up. So here we go. I'm good now. Surviving, breathing. We're alive. But yeah, we're continuing to believe as Jet fans that this team is a year or two out, consistently trading away drafted players for more draft capital in the future. And granted, that the trade for Sauce, the trade for Quinnen, it was all worth it in the grand scheme of things. We need to move in a different direction. But the fact that we sit here in the end of December, Happy New Year, everyone, by the way. Hope everyone has safe and happy holidays. And hope your previous holidays, Hanukkah, Christmas, whatever you celebrate, hope all those days were great. Just hope you weren't stuck watching a stupid Jet game that happened on Sunday. But anyway, the nature of this beast is that, again, as a fan base, we're told year in and year out that this team is just a year or two out. Oh, here's all this draft capital. Here's all this hope. All this $100 million in cap space. And the fact of the matter remains that until they figure out the head coach, until they figure out the quarterback, until those two things are figured out and are figured out simultaneously, it's going to be all the same. Nothing's going to change. This team has, year in and year out, just failed at the two most important positions in the entire sport. And, does it come down to Woody Johnson making the wrong calls? Obviously, he's a big part of it. But you will not and you cannot win this league until you find the quarterback and until you find the right coaches to develop that guy. I don't believe those guys are on this team at this moment in time. Do I think Aaron Glenn gets fired? And we can jump right into that at this point in time. Because if you want to talk about this game, happy to respond to any comments. If you have a question, if you have something you want to get off your chest about this game, feel free to leave a comment. I will pop you in here and answer your questions. But the biggest question of all, as you talk about this New York Jets team, is Aaron Glenn at this point in time. The notion that he's safe 100% is one that has some layers to it. He came into this team and believed the roster was better than it was. He came in and during the entire offseason, during training camp, boasted that this team was ready to win now. And unfortunately, at this we look at what this team really is. They're not. They are nowhere near that. They were nowhere near that. Stripping this team of Sauce Gardner and Quinn Williams definitely hurt, but it did not make this team just this abysmal disgrace of a roster that we are seeing every week over the last month of the season. Did it help? Obviously not. It's no help at all. But the problems on this team stem a lot more than a defensive tackle and a corner that got traded midway through the season. They were 0-7 before those trades happened. They got their first win of the season with Sauce Gardner off the field. The defensive play calling has been abysmal. Aaron Glenn was brought here as the defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions. Although he's been hands-off on the defensive side of the ball, he's trying to be a CEO-type head coach. Well, you're still responsible for the defense and the lack thereof at this point in time. And for him to just continue to roll with Steve Wilkes for as long as he did and allow Steve Wilkes to continue to run that operation to the ground speaks to the fact that he did not have his hand and his pulse on that defense as much as he should have. He was brought in here for what he did in Detroit as a defense coordinator. He was able to get the most out of a team that, let's be honest, was acquiring players primarily on the offense side of the ball through the draft. Yes, they did go out and get Hutchinson. They did go out and get Jack Campbell as first-round picks for him in back-to-back drafts. But primarily, they were focused primarily on, improving that offense. Because let's be real, to win this league, figure out the offense, defense can be figured out, in due time. It's not that much of an issue there. But again, I just continue to look at this and how in the world you hire a defensive-minded coach and you just sit there and accept the fact that this defense is beyond horrible. Just allowing the Patriots to walk into that stadium and just walk up and down the field. Then they score the first five possessions. They score touchdowns. The jokes write themselves about this team. And again, do I believe his job is 100% safe? I think by all accounts, it sounds like that's more or less the case. I know that there's a report out there by a Armando Salguero that his job is not safe. I hope you're right. I hope this is another one and done situation. It really should be. It just there's nothing about what he's doing that makes me feel like this team is moving in the right direction. It's just a complete disaster. Players are not bought in. You can just hear it in their voices. They might say one thing, but you watch that game. You can't sit there and tell me that watching that game that these players are bought in. Players have regressed. Jermaine Johnson is, although he's coming off an Achilles injury, and I do think that has a part to do with it, he's not at all progressing. Whereas Big Dom, Dom's hibernating. This team is brought to sadness. He went on vacation. He may never come back. No, just kidding. He'll be back, but he is on vacation. Ryan solo today in this very depressing Tuesday evening where we talk about the New York Jets. But yeah, his job should 100% be put into question. This team had 5 wins last year, and yeah, they got rid of a lot of pieces. Aaron Rodgers gone, Devontae Adams gone, but Elias moves and Elias people he got rid of. Those are Glenn calls, and yeah, the Devontae Adams thing that was never going to work out. He wouldn't play a snap in the green and white if Aaron Rodgers wasn't here. So I do understand that. But paying Justin Fields $30 million a year or $30 million on his 2-year contract, that was a Glenn call 100%. He was trying to find a reclamation project that he could potentially groom, and unfortunately that backfired. And you know what? When you're a defensive-minded coach and you come in with a rookie offensive coordinator and a quarterback that has been a problem throughout his entire career, you're stamping yourself to the successes of that tandem of a OC and a quarterback that has not been great throughout his entire NFL career, and you're really trying to hope that works out. That hasn't worked out, and that's not the only reason that this team is terrible. This defense has been awful, completely awful from the gate. Justin Fields' best game was Week 1, and it was a game that we lost because his defense could not stop Aaron Rodgers, allowing 4 touchdowns in that game. And yeah, Rodgers has been okay. He's got Steelers on the brink of a potential AFC North championship and a playoff appearance. Yeah, that's great, but they're also 8 wins, 9 wins, whatever they have at this point in time. So it's not like he's running away with anything here. But yeah, it's 100% at this point in time. Glenn should be questioned for his job. I think if we put a meter to it, I do think that the Jets believe that this roster was just so bad, internally at least. They believe this roster is so bad that, stripping it down to its nuts and bolts was the right thing to do, and acquire all this draft capital and hope that Glenn builds it in his image. And you know what? That might be the thing that fixes us all. I would tell you today, there's more likely that Aaron Glenn is probably one of the first coaches fired next season if this thing starts off 0-5, 0-6. If he's still employed, he could very well be the first head coach fired in what could be a disastrous type of season. If they don't figure out the quarterback and that quarterback doesn't come in right away and produce some wins, you're immediately going to look at the coach at that point, because you only get so many years of trying to get this thing turned around. And he's going to have a lot of draft capital, obviously, 4 picks in the first 2 rounds to shape this team up in his image. He's going to have $100 million in cap space, $150 million the following year. So they're obviously going to use some of that to try and lure in some free agents, as they should. You just don't want to see a situation where this team goes out there and does silly things to try and make this team better, and obviously hamper things for the future. Because at this point in time, all you're really looking for is what this team can try and build to get something moving in the right direction. Because it's just one season after another, we're just losing time, losing fans. Let's be real, 15 years without a playoff appearance. It's embarrassing. If you're a kid in high school this year, you probably have never seen the Jets in a playoff game. That's just the way it is. So you're losing generations of fans because you just cannot figure it out. Cannot figure out what it takes to put together a team that can even accidentally get you to 8 or 9 wins. They had one season over this entire tenure of 9 wins or 10 wins, whatever they got to, with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and missing the playoffs in that last game of the season, losing to the Bills. Yeah, it's unfortunate to just keep saying the same thing every season, every single year, in hopes that this team finally gets it right. I'm sick and tired of some people in this fan base getting all happy and crazy that we fleeced another team in a trade. You know who's the team that we fleeced in a trade? The Seattle Seahawks. In 2020, when we traded away Jamal Adams to the Seahawks. Yeah, we fleeced them. We got a lot. We got so much in that trade. But guess what all that resulted in? Absolutely nothing. Yes, we got Garrett Wilson. Yes, we got Sauce Gardner. Yes, we got Breece Hall, Jermaine Johnson, Elijah Vera Tucker, whatever. The list goes on and on. We got a lot of players for that. Some of those players are gone already, other places. Some of them players have just been injured way too much to be on the field. So we got no benefits there. And look what's happened on the other side for Seattle. They're the number 1 seed in the NFC. After all that time, time of us boasting about how badly we fleeced Seattle. And yeah, it's not because of Jamal Adams, but it's because of infrastructure. They figured it out. They made a mistake. Yeah, Jamal Adams was not the right call. They paid him, got out of that contract, and they turned things around. And they're the best team in the NFC right now, as we stand at this point in time. They can clinch the number 1 seed next week if they beat the 49ers, I believe they play. Think they give a shit about who we have? Garrett Wilson? They have Jackson Smith and Jigba. It's just embarrassing that, and we're doing it again. We're doing it again about the Colts. Yeah, and that Colts pick looks outstanding now. We thought it was going to be a 30th pick, 32nd pick, whatever have you, somewhere in the late 20s is more realistically what we thought it was going to be. And here we are. We're talking about 18, can climb as high as 14 if all the games go right. Yeah, it's an outstanding trade at this point in time. And depending on what happens next year, that second first-round pick, it can definitely be great as well. I'm not saying anything there. But can we just ignore the fact that this team is just going to probably end up picking all those players, and those players will all be gone within 5 years? That's just a realistic expectation here. It's the same damn story with this team, year in and year out. It's just embarrassing. No, Wilson's good with us, Tommy. You're not getting him. He may, if they don't figure out a quarterback, he may beg to be out of here. Anyway, I had a list of things to go through. Like I said, this is going to be a short episode. We just got, got to prepare for, I don't even know which holiday we're preparing for. New Year's is the holiday we're preparing for. And also, like I said, Ryan Solo. But if any questions, happy to answer them as we get things moving. Let's go into draft picks since we're more or less on that topic. Best case scenario / worst case scenario for these picks. Let's start off with obviously the Jets pick. So you sit here with the Jets pick at 3-13, as we can see here. Raiders are 2-14, but that strength of schedule is too deep for the Jets to even catch them. I think if the Raiders lose, we win, even if there's a bunch of stuff that happens. The Raiders have that pick. So we're not getting to number 1. Best case scenario would be us getting to number 2 if the Giants win and we lose. A lot of things shaping up that the way, at least for the Bills, that they're going to be playing some backups, some third stringers or whatever have you. I still don't think Aaron Glenn's any good of a coach to even be able to handle that situation. So I think, and I don't think the Bills are going to want to lose their last game in their old stadium to the Jets, but leave. Anthony's favorite authentic Italian ravioli is from the great Chef Boyardee. Make up some better stuff than that, man. Come on. So yeah, as high as the Jets can go, number 2. Still want the Raiders to win because, not that it's much, but that second round pick would obviously be the first in the second round if everything falls the way we're talking about it. If you're in a 3-team tie potentially with the Raiders and the Giants, that 3-13 spot, that second first round pick could end up being one of the top ones in that second round. So you definitely want the Raiders to win, us to lose in that situation to kind of climb up a little bit more. So yeah, there is that. And then as far as a win here, again, I don't see it happening, but I didn't draw a screenshot too far down, but Washington would be the lowest we can get to. So with a win against Buffalo, and then if Tennessee, Arizona, Cleveland, Washington all end up losing, they would all hop over us because of that strength of schedule. Jets are sitting at 550, Washington at 509, so we would drop way down to number 7. Yeah, they cannot win. They cannot win this game. They will not win this game, and they cannot win this game. Just unacceptable if they win a game, especially in what could be a 1 quarterback, 2 quarterback class. You cannot find yourself behind Arizona, Cleveland, 2 teams that are probably be hunting for a quarterback too. If Dante Moore comes out, you're talking about Dante Moore and Fernando Mendoza, the number 1, number 2 options in this draft. You would already at this point in time, you got to trade with the Giants, and if everything landed the way it does right now, you have to do what you can to trade with the Giants to get to number 2 to avoid any team behind you jumping up to get their guy. But yeah, this team just lose. Giants beat Dallas and just make things a lot easier for us. It would just make this thing whole. At least it'll make this miserable season worth something at this point. And then let's look at the Indy pick. So Indy's right now sitting at 8-8. They finished season in Houston against a Houston team that will be fighting for the AFC South title. So obviously Houston will be guns blazing, trying to get that top record in that division. So, I mean, obviously Indianapolis has to play the game too, but it looks like Indy will wrap up the season at 8-9, which is astounding considering the fact they started this whole season 7-1 before making that sauce trade. Again, a trade that does look great at this point in time because of the fact that we thought this was going to be, a trade that we thought was going to make the team be picking the late 30s. They're picking the mid-teens. But it can hop as high as I would say number 14, but I look at Tampa at 13, and 4 points in strength of schedule is not impossible to get to. I don't know who India's played and who Tampa has played and what that difference would look like, but actually, no, I think Carolina has a much worse strength of schedule, so I think it still remains at the highest that pick can go is 14. So I'll leave it at that. I'll let someone prove me wrong, but I think 14 will be the landing spot for that pick. So you're talking about the Jets getting that Indy pick. A Dallas win will move Dallas to 8-8-1. That would be obviously a better record than 8-9 because you have that tie in there. Detroit moving to 9-8, Baltimore moving to 9-8, Minnesota moving to 9-8. All those teams winning would move that Indy pick ahead of all those teams. That Dallas one, I would live in such a happy world if that Dallas one stays at 14 in this scenario, because that would probably mean that Dallas lost to the Giants and that Giants pick moves down to number whatever it moves down to, and the Jets move up to number 2. So yeah, in a perfect world, the Jets pick lands at number 2 when the Giants win over Dallas, and the Indy pick moves all the way up to number 15. That is, at this point in time, best case scenario for this draft. And you know what? If that happens, Dante Moore declares, you're living in a world where you're going to get one of Dante Moore or Fernando Mendoza, depending on who the Raiders decide to go with. And then you're going to have your full slate of 4 first-round picks after picking a quarterback between this year and next year. Your full slate of 3 second-round picks, 2 this year, 1 next year. You're going to have a full slate of picks, 8 picks in these 2 drafts to be able to get whatever player you want in all those positions. And chances are you're not making all those selections. You may trade for players. You may trade up in certain situations if a player continues to fall. This year would probably be the year I would say to do that, because you're already thinking as a team that you're probably going to have to trade up for a quarterback anyway. But if you can get yourself in a situation where you take that Indy pick, whether it be at 18 or 15 or whatever have you, taking that Indy pick and maybe setting a second-round pick to get yourself into the top 10 again for a receiver if they fall. I mean, that's just playing chess while other teams are playing checkers potentially in that situation. But again, depends who's calling the shots. They might just sit there and say, "Hey, we have a bright opportunity here. The fact that we're just sitting here with all this draft capital, let's just make all these picks. We have so many damn holes. We got to fill them all." And I do respect that and understand that thought process. But that's the nature there. And obviously, the lowest Indy pick can go is where they're at right now, 18. They're eliminated from playoff contention, and the lowest a non-playoff pick can go is number 18. So we are sitting in the worst case scenario with the Indy pick, but there's a much better scenario where that pick can climb, and hopefully it does. Got Baltimore. Well, actually, let's look at Baltimore. Baltimore's at 8-8. Steelers at 9-7. Yeah, no, we're good there. I was wondering if Baltimore wins, is a similar situation with the Tampa one where Carolina would then be 8-9 with the lower strength of schedule, but no, it's not the case. because both Baltimore and Pittsburgh would have 9 wins. So that does not impact the situation here at all. So yes, we're sitting in a world where we can be picking 2 and 15 and in a position to get a quarterback of our choice and potentially a star receiver to go with him. I'm looking at like mock drafts here, and I mean, right now they have Mekhi Lemon at 18. I think if the Jets even had pick 15, you're still going Mekhi Lemon at that spot. Maybe they get cute and try and go defense there and try to address wide receiver in the second round, or maybe address wide receiver in 2027. I'm fine with that as well. But we'll see. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of time now between now and the draft to even worry about stuff like that. But anyway, since we're talking about Dante Moore, I looked into this a little bit earlier today. So obviously, Dante Moore it's been noted that he's not made his decision final at this point in time. He's still weighing his options. He is still in the college football playoffs. So as a player in the college football playoffs, he will have until January 23rd to make his decision on whether or not he's going to return to college or not. So we'll know roughly 25 days from now, roughly, if you count today, whether or not Dante Moore is going to be in this draft. And again, if you're a Jet fan, you are hoping he's in there because you're not getting Mendoza at this point in time. If Dante Moore comes out, Raiders might go Dante Moore. They might go Fernando Mendoza, and that will leave the other option for you in a potential trade-up with the Giants as we stand right now. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully we're sitting here having this conversation in, 5 days from now, and the Jets are sitting at number 2, and our lives are so much easier because all we need to do is just sit there and hope that Dante Moore comes out and we make that pick. But we will see. A lot of good stuff in Dante Moore's tape. Let's just hope that he puts together at least a decent showing in his college football playoffs. I think that's the only thing that could potentially impact him wanting to come out is if he puts together a poor showing in this college football playoff and thinks he can benefit by staying back another year. Thing about that is, if he comes out this year, teams are going to pick him 1 or 2. That's just the way it is. How much better can it really get for you? Obviously, additional experience can help. I'm not going to sit here and say that, certain players couldn't have benefited from staying another year in college. But typically, you're trying to stay an extra year in college to improve your draft stock. How much better can your draft stock get than second pick in the draft, especially next year where Arch Manning's going to come out, Julian Sand's going to come out, possibly Lenore Salas if he can turn things around. He's a player that a lot of teams still have a lot of hope for, that he can turn into something special. I think Dante Moore, regardless of the top 5 pick, I'm not sitting here saying that that's not going to be the case, but come out this year, get yourself one step closer to that big-time bag of $1 bajillion for quarterbacks when they sign that second contract. Get a year under your belt, get yourself set up for some success, and see where it goes. But right now, stat for stat, he's not that far off from Mendoza. Mendoza has about 3,000 passing yards on the season. He's right there with him. 33 touchdowns, 28. Mendoza's interceptions, 6 to 8. So he's got that. Completion percentage is right in line. I mean, Dante Moore's every bit of, as good, or in some cases, people believe better. I personally like Mendoza better than Moore, but different people argue that case one way or the other. But Dante Moore is not the Zach Wilson in a Trevor Lawrence draft. This is not the same type of situation. So Jets can get themselves to number 2. If Dante Moore comes out, you're still staying there with a potential quarterback of the future, franchise quarterback type of player that you can pick right there and continue to build around him. Just Dante Moore's got to make our lives a little bit easier and just make that decision and make it come out, get your NFL career started. And hopefully the Jets have the coaching staff around him to be able to get the best out of him. If it's this cast of characters, I'm not sure if you're going to get the best out of any player at this point in time. But we'll see. I've been wrong plenty of times. Hopefully I'm wrong about this one. But if you ask me today, I just don't see a situation where this ends in anything less than eventually a firing of Aaron Glenn, whether it's next week, whether it's next season, it's going to happen. I just don't see a situation where he's the longtime coach here. And that might just be the pessimist in me, but I think that's the way it's going to roll. Anyway, again, I did mention to me a quick episode. Hasn't been a lot to talk about. But starting next week, I believe, I have to double check and make sure, but I believe next week we will be doing our Fix the Jets, which at that point we'll know where the Jets are picking. Both picks, actually all picks. We'll know where all of those first 2-round picks will be, so makes things a little more accurate. Obviously, we're still going to do our mock draft, and that's still going to be based on pre-scouting combine, pre-senior bowl, pre-everything. So obviously, a lot of work still to be done there, but we'll give our analysis of how we believe that this offseason will go. And all I gotta say is the misery is almost over, people. 1 game left. Nothing to pull your hair out of. The Jets are going to lose. Even with Bills playing their 18 stringers, I can't see a situation where the Jets go in there and win. Can't see a situation where the Bills will want that to happen. Last game at whatever that stadium is called now, before they open up the new stadium next year, they don't want to end that stadium with a loss to the Jets. At least I don't believe so. We'll see how it goes. Again, 1 game left. It's almost over. And then we'll have a lot of fun off season, hopefully, to look forward to, where they try and improve all these areas that we're complaining are, non-NFL players. They'll have a lot of money, a lot of draft capital to fix it. So we'll see how it goes. If you haven't already, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. Like I said, we're almost at the finish line, guys. Let's hope it ends with us being second pick. Let's hope the Indy pick gets as high as possible. And hopefully Jets are out there making some tough decisions here in the next week or so to try and get the team in the best position possible to be successful for next season with a potential young quarterback. Again, if you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and let's go Jets.